What up, great nation? Gabe the Great back here again for another video, and you guys knew that I was going to talk about this. You guys knew that if there was anybody that was going to talk about the NCAA, I was going to talk about the NCAA. Now, if you are new to the channel, I've done a whole 6-part series about whether or not the NCAA should pay its players. I deeply encourage you to go watch that. Spend a lot of time on that. We go through it very in depth, just exactly about how the NCAA is ran, why they don't pay players, why they should pay players, and everything. It's a really good series, so please go and watch that if you have not watched that. But the NCAA released a statement saying that they were going to allow players to be able to make money off their own name and likeness. Everyone loves it. I am skeptical. I am skeptical, and articles like this really peer into why I am skeptical of this. If you do not know, and I gotta admit, I called this a couple months ago. I said a couple months ago, back when SB 206, I believe it was, the legislation bill in California, which is basically the fair to pay to play, fair play for pay, something like that. When that legislative was going through the final stages of being voted not into a bill, I said that if that bill got passed, that what I believed was going to happen was that the NCAA was going to come and basically try to jump ahead of it. And it's interesting because that bill would not go into effect until 2023. The NCAA statement says they would put theirs into effect into 2021. And so I called it. I said the NCAA was going to try to get ahead of this thing, and that is exactly what they're doing. Okay, yeah, my voice is being recorded. Just want to make sure. And this is a great article that kind of proves that right there. So let's jump into it. The NCAA announcement isn't quite what it seems. Okay, and we're gonna go through this. This is a article by The Nation. We're not gonna read the whole thing, although it's not that long. I encourage you to read it. Maybe we will read the whole thing because it's not that long. But it says, in a decision that the National Collegiate Athletic Association and its assorted media partners treated like the mother of all bombshells, the NCAA has announced that it will now allow athletes to benefit from their name, image, and likeness. The news was reported breathlessly, suggesting that the NCAA was embracing some dramatic, even revolutionary change. But what is really happening here? As I said, it was going to be on the NCAA to get ahead of this. And again, I told you, they were going to make it seem like they're going to be the saviors of the day. Like, again, they're embracing the change. And it's like, this is what we should do. But we all know what was really going on. We know that they were basically forced. California passed the bill, and then about a dozen other states stood up and said, hey, we're going to go after bills like this too, so that kids can get paid in our states as well. Before people get too excited, it should be clarified that what the NCAA announced is a framework, not an immediate dictate. Okay, this is very important. What the NCAA actually announced, it did not actually announce that they were going to pay players or they were going to allow players to make money ad infinitum. That's not what they announced. They basically said they were going to come up with a framework that would allow players to be paid. All right, keep that in mind. The unelected poobahs of college sports, otherwise known as the NCAA Board of Governors, have agreed only in instructing the 3 divisions of the NCAA sports to construct this framework that will allow athletes to benefit from their own name, image, and likeness in a manner consistent with that of the collegiate model. But what does that really mean? The NCAA Board of Governors placed several caveats in the fine print, and that's where everything is at. It's in the fine print. They instructed the 3 divisions to update their rules in a way that maintains a distinction between college and professional sports. They include other guidelines, which are less guidelines than girdles constricting what the divisions can do, including make clear that compensation for participation or performance is impermissible. So what does that mean right there? That means that Division 1, 2, and 3, they have to make it very, very clear that the universities will not pay players to come to their schools. Like, you can't be paid money to play for this university. Also, that they can't receive money from outside sources to play for a certain school. So they cannot participate or perform for any sort of compensation, right? Other than scholarships, of course. So that's key. Okay, that's very important, because people think like, okay, kids will now be able to make money, that they can just go make money. No. You got to be very clear. Devil's in the details. Secondly, it talks about reaffirm that student athletes are in fact students and not employees of the university. FYI, students are employees of the university in every single way except name. Student athletes does everything an employee of the university you would ask an employee to do, except we don't call them employees. But I've already done a video on that. You should go watch that video. And perhaps most hilariously in the process, where they are trying to do little more than carve out their share of the golden goose, enhance principles of diversity, inclusion, and gender equity. That last one is one what might generously called diversity washing. Before we measure the merits of the NCAA's effort to hold onto its own back, we should make no mistake about it. The board was brought to this decision kicking and screaming. This happening only because California Governor Gavin Newsom recently signed a bill written by Democratic State Senator Nancy Skinner in late September that gave the NCAA athletes not only likeness rights, but also prevented California schools from punishing athletes for accepting endorsement money starting in January 2023. So their bill was very interesting because it basically said, hey, that you can now go make money off your own likeness, and the school cannot punish you. The California school can't punish you for accepting endorsement money, which is a very interesting caveat, because the schools can't punish you, but the NCAA can. And we've talked about this in other videos about how the NCAA works is they will force the school, they sort of like kind of force the schools to punish their student athletes by saying basically, hey, punish these people or we're going to put sanctions on you. That's how the NCAA works. So the NCAA, they like to kind of keep their hands clean of punishment if they can. Obviously, they will come down with sanctions on the university when they have to keep that idea of moral superiority that the NCAA likes to have. But the bill only said that California schools cannot punish, but not the NCAA. So I thought that was very interesting about that bill. Once Skinner's bill appeared to be a sure thing, more than a dozen states said that they too wanted to pass similar legislation. It united Newsom, one of the most left-wing governors, with Florida Ron DeSantis, a Trumpian figure of the hard right. This sent shivers through the NCAA, which initially threatened legal action against California because it could allow certain states to tout a competitive advantage in attracting high school athletes, improving their standing, and grabbing their piece of the multi-billion-dollar spectacle that is NCAA football and basketball. As journalist Patrick Herby said to me, the California legislation put a gun to their heads to actually make something happen. Sure enough, Mark Emmert, the NCAA's chief, said in recent weeks that he wanted more uniform rules so everyone was playing with the same cards. That sparked an effort by several members of Congress to put forward their own legislation. Tuesday's announcement was clearly Emmert's efforts to head this off and preserve the NCAA's autonomy from prying eyes of the federal government. This is huge right here. That's a huge statement right there, because people got to understand the NCAA, as I have said, is a legal cartel. They have a monopoly on a commodity, which is competitive sports entertainment in basketball and football, really all competitive sports entertainment at the young adult level, so 18 through 23. If you want to watch any brand of competitive football, competitive basketball, or anything competitive, or you want to play or watch people between the ages of like 18 to 22, 23, you have to watch through the NCAA. They have a monopoly on the market. They have a monopoly in the TV contracts. They have a monopoly there. And what they do is they inflate the price of that commodity by suppressing the wages of their employees, which would be the student athletes, by basically saying student athletes can only receive, scholarships, some and covering the full cost of attendance and things like that, a few stipends. But it's basically wage suppression, saying that these employees, the student athletes, I believe employees are student athletes, that they cannot make more than that right there. Okay. But this is important. What the NCAA doesn't want, they do not want the federal government to get involved in what they do. They just don't. Because if the federal government gets involved, they're going to regulate it. And I'm not saying that if the federal government gets, this is where people make the mistake. People think if the federal government gets involved, that this is going to be better for players. Not necessarily. Things may not even change, because all I think the federal government is going to want to do is take their share of the pie, because the federal government always overspends. The federal government always overspends every single year, right? People love talking about the budget deficit. All the budget deficit is the federal government spending money that they don't have. So if the federal government starts to really get involved in the NCAA, I believe their main motivation is going to be to also get part of that pie. And I don't think that's going to necessarily yield good for the student athletes. I think while you'll be allowed to do certain things, it's going to be heavily regulated. How, when, and where it comes about. Like, I could totally see the federal government, if they got involved, saying these are your approved sources of income. Like, you can only make money through YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, or these. Like, you would have to register. Like, they would create like some type of, system or system of companies, approved list companies in which you could, Ford and all the big sponsorships, Kia and things like that. You could only get sponsorships through them. So then essentially you would not be in a free market industry. Essentially, the student athletes, you can make money off your own likeness, but only if one of these approved lists allow you to make money. That's what I think would happen. Okay. Again, I'm just spitballing here, but based on what I know about the NCAA, the federal government, that's what I think would happen. Patrick Herbie, who has made following the NCAA's hypocrisy his own personal cottage industry, said to me, "This is completely predictable and what everyone should have expected." Exactly. As is always the case with the NCAA's, the devil will be in the detail. If you look at the first line, they don't say that athletes should be paid or profit. Huge. If you look at the first line, they don't say athletes should be paid or profit. They use the word benefit. Athletes should benefit. Language is very important in legalese, okay? What exactly does that mean? And why is profiting from your own property considered a benefit? But the really important part is the rest of the sentence, where it says, in a manner that is consistent with the collegiate model. What is the collegiate model? It's garbage. It's nothing. It's whatever the NCAA says it is. They are saying that we will allow you NIL rights in an extremely limited fashion, and only in a way that allows the NCAA to carve out a big piece of the pie as they want. Think about how condescending that is. It's like saying, is this your house? Is this your car? Great. Maybe you can get to use it under a bunch of rules I make up when I say it's okay. That is exactly what I think is going to happen with this. Because it's very simple. Multi-billion-dollar corporations are going to protect their multi-billion dollars. And if you get a sliver of it, if they start allowing kids to get a sliver over it, because of their zero game mentality, they're going to think like, oh, well, that's going to take something off my table, right? And so they're going to protect that at all costs. And so all the NCAA wants to do is, if times are changing and people are like, student athletes should be paid, they just want to regulate it. That's all they want to do. They want to be able to regulate it. They want to be able to say, you can make money off your own likeness, but you can only make it in these avenues, through these approved companies, through these approved places. These are where you can make money. But then that's going to limit the market, because then those companies or those people on the approved list are only going to work with a certain number of people. It's interesting. Change is marching forward. The NCAA is desperately trying to make sure that it happens on the organization's own terms. The snowball is rolling downhill, and there is no telling the size of the ensuing avalanche. I emailed Pulitzer Rising journalist Taylor Branch, whose Atlantic article, "The Shame of College Sports," also changed the discussion. He said to me, "The dam is giving way at last." So it's going to be very, very interesting what happens here. Again, I'm a little bit leery. I'm also interested in how this is going to affect high school athletes. Look, any parent out there, if you have a kid who is playing a sport, basketball, football in particular, get them their own YouTube channel. And I could do a whole video on this, but I really think parents should stop paying a bunch of money for AAU, and instead of paying, because every AAU season costs anywhere from $1,000 to $4,000 per player. You do that 2-3 times a year. Parents are spending anywhere from a couple thousand to $10,000 a year on AAU. I say split that in half. Let your kid play one season, and use the rest of the money to buy camera equipment. And get them a YouTube channel, get them a Instagram, so you can start monetizing that right away. Like that's what I'm gonna do, right? Like that's what I do. That's what I mean. My kid, she does her own YouTube videos. I've yet to edit them, but she does her own YouTube videos, and she's gonna have her own YouTube channel here soon. I'm getting her a camera for Christmas. Shh, don't tell her. But yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, if I want to see how this is going to affect high school athletes too, because I think what needs to happen is like, well, no matter what happens, I would say like every student athlete should have their own YouTube channel. Do you know what I mean? People would love to follow a day in the life of a student athlete. There actually are some really good student athletes. There's a young girl. She goes to I think it's Utah State. I think her name is Shailene Brown, something like that. She's got a YouTube channel. She can't monetize it, but what I love about what she's doing is, and she's actually a really good player, she has built a little subscriber base. I think she's got 200, 300, maybe 400,000 subs at this point of making this video. And when she graduates, that fan base is going to follow her. So the day she graduates, she can monetize it to whatever she wants to. If she wants to do pop-up shops, if she wants to do merch, if she wants to do whatever. Very, very, very wise. I think a lot more student athletes should be doing it, even right now, but especially now, because the tides are changing and your ability to make profit is going to increase. Again, I could do a whole video on that, but my thing with this whole thing is, I think everyone's getting excited about this. I think be careful. This thing is going to be regulated. They're going to regulate this thing. It's not going to be a free-for-all. The NCAA nor the federal government is just going to allow student athletes to just start making money off their name. It's too much of a cash cow. It's too much of a cash cow. Again, I'm like to say I could go on forever. I'm gonna save it for a whole nother video, but I really do think that if you want to do this thing the right way, that you got to start taking ownership of your own name. Like, the idea that someone's gonna allow me to make money off my name is ludicrous to me. It's like insane. Like, why would you? Like, what's the trade-off? You know what I'm saying? Like, what's the trade-off? A scholarship is not a degree, and a degree is not a job. Like, what's the trade-off here? And I'm gonna put my body on the line every single day? I don't know. We'll see. But tell me what you guys think. Let me know down in the comment section. What were your thoughts when this announcement was made? Are you excited? Are you kind of on the fence about about me? Let me know down in the comment section what you think. Remember, be great, be grateful. I'll see you next time. Peace.